Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 2 of Right in Front of My Face, the podcast that talks about big things happening right in front of us. I can't believe this is episode number 2. This is very exciting, and I'd like to start off by saying a huge thank you to everyone that downloaded this episode number 1 and took the time to review it, rate it, reach out to me. The reach of the episode has so far exceeded my expectations, and I am enormously grateful that Joe's story resonated. Thank you for the opportunity. And now that I have the first episode jitters out of the way, I am very, very excited to bring you my next guest, Lauren. Lauren is one of the chicest moms I know. And in the course of getting to know her, she opened up to me and shared a story about her own marriage that moved me in a pretty profound way, because she took the path of filing for divorce from her husband. The part of the story that to me was so amazing is that the past didn't end there. She and her husband worked together and figured out a way to keep their marriage going and stay together despite the dark place they were in. Her story really made me think about my own marriage, and it really inspired me in a way that no other story has. I hope you enjoy hearing it as much as I did. And so without further ado, here is Lauren. Welcome to Right in Front of Your Face. I'm Shannon Hull, your host, and I'm very excited about today's guest, Lauren, because we are talking about a topic that I feel like we could spend endless hours discussing, and that is the topic of marriage.
Correct.
And Lauren has generously agreed to come on and talk about her experience in the challenges of marriage and in filing for divorce, and in doing that, being able to save her marriage, which I think is a particularly remarkable feat of human spirit for both you and your husband. And so thank you, Lauren.
Well,
for coming in and talking with me. I know you have not been feeling well.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think that this is an awesome platform to give so many people a way, because so much of the time we're like sitting alone with things. And I think that this is such a good place for people to feel like they're not alone, even if they're sitting alone listening or, because it's not something you want to like sit around the dinner table with your girlfriends and talk about. Because it's not like super fun. And everyone kind of expects that, like, oh my gosh, we have a girls' night. It's going to be so fun. It's like, well, maybe they don't have fun things to talk about.
No. And I think too, like the point of this podcast is to recognize that there are so many things people are going home to and dealing with behind closed doors. I will describe Lauren as a very chic, very bubbly, very with it woman who, when you see her, like you have your shit together. And that's the image that we all see and project. And to know that there's another layer to everybody, I think is really important. And, this all happened without many people knowing about it.
Correct.
Let's kind of start at the beginning and I'd like to hear you tell your story, like kind of chronologically, right? As I kind of learn about it also, but I kind of want to go through the beginning, the middle, the end, and then the rebuild. You have a very articulate way of describing your experience. So tell me about how you and your husband met. And then I kind of want to end with your advice to married people who find themselves in this place, because I think the longer you're married, and I don't know, this maybe is personal experience, but I think there are dark days that we all have where we all fantasize about leaving our spouse or what life would be like. So I kind of just want to hear your advice to all of us who are in that boat at the end.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I met my husband at a mutual friend's birthday party, and it was, just going in, no intentions, like meeting a guy.
Just meeting the peeps. I don't remember what that was like.
Yeah, just hanging out.
I don't remember doing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, yeah, let's go. Like, it's fine. After party, my house. Like that was just who I was, who I still am. It all just kind of seemed naturally like progressing how relationships do. I don't know, because I didn't know what that was, right? It's not like you're And I think about this like with my daughter, like, I'm like, well, you're going to meet somebody. And then if you have these kinds of feelings, then that means that. And then you like go to, I don't know, like I have no idea. So it just so happened. And then we got engaged. We moved in together after, I don't know, 2 years. Let's see, 2009.
So it's pretty traditional story, right?
Yeah,
you meet,
totally
date,
traditional story.
2 years, exactly the same as mine. It's like 2 years engaged. Once you're
totally,
felt right.
Yep.
Felt good.
Yes, exactly. Like just kind of went with the flow. I mean, obviously there were some, you have your first fights, you have your little,
all the milestones.
Yeah. All the things, but like,
and so taking it back just one step, are your parents together?
So my parents are not. My parents got divorced when I was very young, like don't remember at all. His parents are still married.
Okay.
So
one of you comes from a separated marriage.
Totally.
The other doesn't.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
So we got married. That kind of brought up some issues just because we had different ideas of kind of what we wanted, like the actual, ceremony and like those kinds of things to look like. But again, okay, you move past those things. Okay.
Yeah. So this is your engagement, right? You got engaged.
Yep.
Got very different ideas about how things should go.
Yep. But okay. Like, I guess this is marriage, right? Like making sacrifices for like, oh, well, this person really wants this. So I'm going to,
I'm going to cave, and then your husband will never think about it again, and you will stew on it every single day of your life.
Yeah, like I'll bring it up right now.
Yep, 100%.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really wanted an outdoor wedding. He really wanted a Catholic wedding. Catholic priests won't marry you outside of the church, so we got married in the church, and like all the things. So, once we got married, and then found out that I was pregnant, was like, okay. I mean,
so much for the honeymoon phase.
Oh yeah.
You're a partier.
Oh yeah.
Myself included. Like that is a hard thing, going from like thinking you are like going to go wild with your husband, and then boom, finding out you're pregnant.
And
like, whoa.
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of people say like, oh, you marry like the opposite, or someone that's so different than you. I mean, my husband and I are almost essentially the same person, just different body parts. And
there's no yin and yang. There are two yins.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you find out you're pregnant, get married, honeymoon ends like literally faster than you thought.
Mm-hmm.
You're working. You're not working at this point. You're working.
I'm working. We were living in my mom's basement because the day of our wedding, our lease was up at a house in the same neighborhood. And we were like, we're going to live with my mom. We're going to save money to buy a house, to like start a family one day.
Or like today.
Or like, yeah, yesterday. And we're living in my mom's basement with nowhere to go. So that was tricky. Because that was also at the height of the market when getting a house was just literally impossible. Yeah. Especially for a young couple.
Yeah.
So we ended up buying his parents' house. By the time we got in there and made some of the changes that we needed to make, I was 8 months pregnant. So all very stressful in itself. Getting married, buying a house, having a baby.
All within a year.
And then when I had her in May of that year, obviously at first it was amazing. Couldn't be better. Like I was that annoying person that loved being pregnant. Yeah. I was so annoying. Everyone can hate me for that because I loved being pregnant, and I was like obsessed with her, and that was my life.
Yeah.
Looking back, I made it so much my life that like I almost like alienated everybody else, kind of including my husband, but also like looking back at it now, like he allowed that.
Sure.
I can't really think, it's not like those exact moments of like, well, he did this and the baby was crying and like he was, I mean, it wasn't so black and white on a day-to-day basis. But the breakdown really, when I think about it, was when you're creating this new family, whether it be, adopting a child, or even if you have a miscarriage, or there's a change in the dynamic of your like nucleus of your family, like that needs to be nurtured. It needs to be taken care of, and things just weren't being taken care of.
And I think that, honestly, I think that point is profound in many ways, because you have this new life, and you may have, my husband was home for 2 weeks of that. I think your husband was home not that long either.
Right.
And so then you're like, well, we have everything else to take care of. My nipples are bleeding. I'm just really trying to sleep and survive this. And so that you're 100% correct. Like that dynamic changes quite a bit.
Totally. And even I am a vocal person, and I was very vocal. Like I don't know what to do. I'm literally YouTubing. I was the first person to have a child out of all of my friends. Literally YouTubing, like, how do I open the stroller? Like, I did not know how to work my stroller.
I also have had to put my stroller fully
yes, me too.
Up into the trunk of my car. Very confusing.
Like, come on, man.
You're like, there's no one in the house.
Go through a trial before you leave.
There's no one in the house to help you. It's terrible.
Nobody. Yeah. It's just like, dang, this is like low. This is lonely. This sucks, man. But hey, you know what? She's alive. We're good. And I think also looking back, I lost my brother in July of 2000. Having a child was like this, and still is for me with both of mine. I think that I do come as a parent from a place of fear so much. I'm so scared of what I know, what I saw, that it ain't going to happen on anyone's watch but mine. So I'm going to be there. I'm going to take care of them, and nobody can do it better than me.
Right. So there's that fear of like relinquishing any of it. So you're holding tightly onto the motherhood piece. Your husband is hearing you say that.
Oh, I'm sure in his story, because this is just mine, he would be like, well, there was really no place for me, because the second she'd cry or anything, it's like, oh, give it to me. Give her to me. Give her to me right now. Like right now.
Like I can summon that feeling. That you have when you hear your baby crying and like somebody else can't stop it.
Yes. So, given that like little backstory there, I will self-admit that like I didn't, obviously like in the moment I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like this happened to me. So I'm being this overbearing parent who really just like really wants my daughter all the time, every time she's screaming and throwing a fit. No, I also wanted to like drop kick her, but also like pick her up on the other side of the room while she's flying through the air. Right. Like, but I didn't know how to communicate that. I clearly didn't know, like, maybe I was dealing with, I don't know, maybe I had some postpartum. I don't know, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that things were falling apart. I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. And my husband seemed to be either clueless or checked out or totally, in my eyes, okay with the fact that like the way I looked at it was like, oh, okay, she's got it. She's going to do her thing. So I'm going to do mine. So I'm going to, go to all the games, take everybody up on every offer to do anything.
His life is not stopping at this point in the same way that yours
I was like skyrocketing.
Felt like it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like perfect excuse. Like most I could do is like go get my nails done because I also exclusively breastfed because I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
And like, I vividly remember one statement. I wanted to like go somewhere or do something. And, you know, he was like, well, what is she going to do? I'm like, what do you mean? What is she going to do? Like, she's going to be just fine. You're going to have to give her a bottle. Like, she's not going to starve to death. Like, and he's like, well, she won't take a bottle. I'm like, she's got to take a bottle.
She's gonna
take a bottle. She has to, but she never did because we, quote,
and
unquote,
those were big air quotes right there.
Yeah. Oh, big air quotes. She never took a bottle, which like, I mean, come on. And
that's a huge load to carry.
So then I think I've said this to you before, like, oh, you know, the doctors say, oh, baby turns 1 and like, here's a cup of milk. Like, yeah, sure. That really happens. People like, can we just talk about how to get that baby off your boob and that transition? And like, I don't know. Anyways. So I just kind of sucked it up. Like, all right,
I guess I'll give my life up for a little bit.
For sure. And I'm totally okay with that. Right. Like, let's do it. And it's just, you know, it's like, just part of life, Lauren. Like you've lived your life. You've got it good. It's fine. Like
just trying to convince yourself that things are fine. But in the meantime, you've gone a year in this place where you are floundering, right? Like you're not comfortable in the throes of motherhood, feeling supported, feeling
like, who am I now?
Right.
Who am I? I have no idea. I guess I'm a wife, a mom, like these things, but like, I don't feel describing who I was. I still can't. Like now I look back and I'm like, wow, that was a really confused, sad, lonely, hurting person.
Right.
And I would not have told you that then.
And not only is it extremely lonely, I think it is confusing for your partner because they can't know, they can't know what you're going through, but they also can't understand how isolated you feel during just the day, right?
And it has nothing to do with them.
Right.
So if all the men could get on here and listen, that this has nothing to do with you, really. If you could just, like, that's the other thing. Anytime I tried to bring this to my husband, like, I am feeling lonely. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm here. Like, oh, no, bro. I'm talking about me, not you, not the baby, not my friends. I'm talking about me feeling in my own walls of my own cells of my own being. I feel alone.
Right.
So sit with me. Something.
Yeah, like talk to me about this weird rash our daughter has.
Yes.
Talk to me about
weird rash you have. Talk to me about something about your friend. Make up a story. Tell me
about work.
Yes.
Tell me about everything. Like just you're hungering for connection.
Yes. And he used to always say, so this is the best. He'd come home and I'd be like, oh my gosh, how was your day? What'd you have for lunch? Who'd you talk to? What's going on? Like giving the download.
My husband used to call me his golden retriever puppy.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. Hi, tell me everything. You want to hear what I did? All of it. Let's talk about all of it.
Girl, me too, sister. I'm telling you. And so he would go, I've been talking to people all day long and I just want some silence. And I was like, do you want to see the visual that's going through my head right now? Because it's red.
Throat punch.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like, so it was things like that just
chip away.
Erode.
They just chip away. I call them the little big things.
Yes.
Like those are little big things that on their own might not necessarily be a big deal, but when they are rolled up into a large snowball of a year, that starts to become something you can't ignore.
Right. And I think that it falls back on like two things, which our counselor actually got us to this, but basically at the bottom line is at the end of the day, you ask yourself two questions is with your partner, your friends or things, which is, am I important to you? And do you have my back? Like those should be yes. Like, am I important to you? Do you have my back? And I did not feel either of that. I did not feel like, and then I don't know if most women do this, but I did for sure. I would question myself, like, maybe I'm not doing this right, or I'm not, right. Or I've gained so much weight. I gained so much weight with my first pregnancy. I mean, you know what I mean?
As most of us do, as is a normal thing to do.
Yeah, but you're trying to figure it out. Oh my gosh, then you breastfeed and it all falls off. And I'm like, listen, people, I am breastfeeding more than I've ever had. Like, I don't even know. And I have a freezer full of milk and she won't even drink it. And trust me, I hadn't lost 1 pound. When I stopped breastfeeding, I lost all the weight.
Well, honestly, it's like, but your ego takes a hit and your identity takes a hit, and none of that helps you connect with your partner. Mm-mm. So you go through this year of exclusive breastfeeding. You are feeling how you feel. And I think your point is good about probably like a 90-10 split on how much is going on with you and then how much is going on with your husband.
Well, and
right?
we didn't talk about like the financials of like all of a sudden like, oh, hey, I mean, I don't know. Am I supposed to ask you to like get a Brazilian or a mani-pedi or anything that makes me feel good about myself? No, because now I feel super awkward and weird because that was a huge change too that we didn't talk about.
I would like to come back to the fact that you were postpartum getting a Brazilian, which I feel like deserves some kind of prize in and of itself. We can touch on that later.
Yeah, that will be for a whole new topic of how to take care of your, how to really take care of yourself.
The financials do change because you went straight from having your own job to being like, just kidding, I'm going to stay at home. I want to raise this baby. And that is hard.
And then I think I started getting resentful towards her.
Yeah. I think that happens.
Like, I think I'm just having that moment of like, I think I did. Weird. That's mean, but I mean, it's real. So
it's real. I think that stuff happens. And I think even, that space that's common. Yeah. And maybe it's not resent in as much as it is like, what did I do? Mm-hmm. What have I done?
So all of that happened. Then once I had to leave town to get her off the boob, my mom stayed with her. I came back. I was done breastfeeding. I was like, yeah, got my life back. Kind of like, I don't know. So I don't have like a sitter or nanny or anything, but at least I have like some space.
Yep.
And let's see here. Then I got pregnant again. Weird.
Boom.
He looked at me. I had sex one time and we were up at Lopez Island. And I remember we were walking back to the little place we were staying. And I looked at my husband and I was like, oh man, I'm pregnant. And I knew because I had like 2 glasses of wine. Usually I can drink like
more than that.
A lot. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant. Faux show. Pregnant or like the flu, something. Because I was like, oh no, like, just, yeah. So we got back into town, took like 40 pregnancy tests. And I'm like, damn, they're all positive. And my husband goes, yeah, honey, those are wrong all the time. And I was like, yeah, as in like, you're not pregnant or like you. Yeah. And yeah, no, I mean, hello. I was pregnant.
The false positive doesn't happen too much.
Yeah, right. With like all 40.
Not with pregnancy tests.
Right. So I was like, well, okay.
But going through the whole process again.
Tra-la-la. Yeah. I was like, okay, here we go. I kind of just put my head down and was like, all right, like.
And in the meantime, are you guys kind of on parallel paths at this point? You know what I mean? Like coming together at night, still friends-ish? How does the relationship feel going into your second pregnancy?
Really was, he's a really good father. Like he really he did bedtime every night with my daughter, and they had this like thing. Well, when he was home, like they have this thing, and he still does with her. And I started going into like frantic mode as far as like I'm gonna have to have an income. I went into like survival of Lauren mode. Like I'm gonna set myself up for success because I can't depend on nobody.
And you're like, I'm not going through this again in the same way the second time.
Yeah. So something's going to change. I'm going to change it. It's so interesting. I do remember spending a lot of time with our daughter kind of like in those like, oh, this is our last like, time together, just us or whatnot. But I was resentful. I just was resentful and I felt shorted. I guess in my head, a lot of people would be like, well, that was a choice that you made. You could have gone back to work. I mean, but I didn't. And I think that's a point that really needs to be, because I've been thinking about this a lot. Like I did make the choice to stay home. That was a hard choice because I remember saying like, no one could pay me $1 million to be away from my baby.
Yeah.
No one. Still to this day. Yeah. I wouldn't go back and do it any different.
I think so, because I made the same choice to stay at home. It's not that you want to change it. It's just there has to be space for that grief of who you were. Mm-hmm. And I think like some of us arrive at that conclusion much later. Right?
Totally.
Myself included. And so it is that like, oh my God, I don't want this to be different. But how do I evolve? How do I leave behind?
It's like a snake.
It's shedding skin.
Yeah. It's like,
it's shedding skin.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes it like, maybe it gets in a fight and like a chunk comes out, or you know what I mean? It's not like all this like glorious, beautiful snake skin that's left behind that like you see at science class or something. It's like, it can be in chunks. It can be ripped off at certain times. And I think it's like a snowball too, where you start to roll it and then it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And, I think also we are all products of our past, and we're all, individuals, and we all come from different things, and we all see the world differently, and we see ourselves in ways that, like, friends describe themselves to me and I'm like, you crazy girl, because to me, you are amazing and perfect. And I can tell you some flaws here or there, but like no one's as hard, obviously, on ourselves as we are. And
truth.
Yeah. And I think, what I have realized through a lot of this process, and not until later, I guess we can get to that. But what ended up happening is that I had my son. I started a business 2 minutes. It felt like it. 2 months later.
That's about 2 minutes. In postpartum life, that's about 2 minutes.
Correct. And worked from home. I did really well and took care of the kids and ran a business from my house. And that almost made it worse.
Really?
Because then I was bringing in money. Not really.
So you're creating independence in this situation, which for you, like,
was amazing.
Yeah.
And for him, he was not used to. And I do think that he liked me needing or not having as much freedom. I think he just was super used to and super comfortable with me in my quote unquote role.
Well, I think I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like women, after they give birth, this is like a generalization. So obviously nobody falls into this, but not everybody falls into this, but I do feel like women evolve in a completely different way than their partners after childbirth, right? Like I feel like partners sometimes go into like hardcore provider mode if they have not actually had the baby. Like my experience was discovering this like nurturing part of myself that I like literally had no idea that I had. And then my husband kind of rocked into like whoa, I need to get my stuff together and provide for this baby. And those roles got very comfortable. And so you getting that independence may have been to him like, oh shit, this is like kind of shifting the foundation.
Like, she's back, bitches.
She's back.
And she's got 2 kids and she's holding shit down. And what the fuck do I have to show for it?
Yeah. And in many ways, like, you're stronger than you've ever been at that point, right? Because you've survived this experience twice, you know, discovered this, like, I mean, superpower in yourself kind of. Mm-hmm. And then it, you know, you have been changing without necessarily without him.
100%. I was a whole new person. Like, look at me now, and you don't even know me because you chose not to be on this journey with me. You chose to allow me or keep me. I don't want to say like down, but he was very comfortable with wifey being at home and him being able to do all of the things that he wanted to do with the excuse of, I had babies on my boobs. So what was he where was his, you know, part? I mean, there was an excuse for everything.
Right.
But there was never an excuse for me to like, what was my excuse? Well, I need me. Well, they need you.
So the divide grows as you have this business. What happens as your breaking point? Like, how does this manifest?
I felt that either what I can't speak for him. I don't know if he was threatened by like me doing this all on my own and like all of a sudden just being like, I got my business, I'm making money, I'm taking us to Mexico, I'm doing this, that. Like, oh dang. I don't know. And so I can't even really go there. However, I just started getting sick of it and sicker of it and sicker of it that, and I remember, I'll never forget calling him one day and being like, what is going on? Why do you not see me? Why do you not hear me? And I was like on our house phone. Like, I was like, what is up? Like, I went through like, are you having an affair? Are you on, what are they called? Like, if you're working out, steroids or something.
Are you juicing?
Are you juicing? Are you, what is wrong with you? Like, why? Like,
because he was that disengaged.
He just was so disengaged. And I was so sad. Cause like the thing is like, we always, no matter what, we're a good time. We're a good time and we have fun. That is a constant, no matter what.
Right.
So anyways, I just was done. I like woke up one day and was like, I can't, this is my life.
You know, I was just talking to a woman who just filed for divorce. And she said something to me that like just really struck a chord with me. And she said, I just feel like I have so much sadness and yet so much aliveness still in me with this person that I have to put on hold to be married to this person. And I mean, it sounds like that's a little bit of what you're saying.
And that's
like,
bullshit.
I'm so sad and yet I'm so alive, and I am not allowed to be alive in this relationship because my husband is literally gone, traveling, has chosen work, whatever. And I feel like for anybody listening that resonates with, that is a really important thing to pay attention to, like tempering your own aliveness, dimming your own light so that you can be there for everybody else.
I keep thinking about this thought that I had, right? Like when I had my daughter, about like, oh my gosh, I lost a brother. My parents lost a child. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I remember like all of these feels. And then I'm sitting there not living my best life.
Right.
I want her to live her best life because of a loss that I have felt, but yet I'm losing my own. No, I was like, no, will not do it. Will not do it. Will not have it.
And that's profound. And I think also like that is, our past experiences inform everything that we live currently. And that is a big realization where you've like experienced this loss in your family and you're like, no,
yes,
I am not going to put my own life on hold for this. Like you are going to honor your own aliveness.
Yes. And I'm going to stand up for myself and I'm going to give myself a voice and I'm going to be that person, and I think that it's important. And I kept thinking about like, who do I want to be? Like who I know and I've always been this way where it's like, I know who I am. I mean, in high school, like I did some bad things. I knew when I was even doing those bad things, who I was and that it was not good, that what the choices that I were making and that something needed to change. I knew that even then.
The words like see me, hear me are the two biggest ones. And you said something in one of our conversations about like you had this sense of teenage rebellion as an adult.
Totally.
Right. And so talk about that.
Well, I think that when we're all human and we, I used to rebel and
I did too.
Yeah.
Because you just want somebody to notice.
Yeah. Like, Mom, I know I'm grounded, but I'm going out anyways. She's like, no, you're not. I'm like, watch me. Walk out that door.
And I don't think that tendency leaves us as adults.
No. Well, and depending on how, it's like I was talking to a girl the other day and she was like, oh, I never like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, yeah, clearly you had a super healthy upbringing. I'm not sure we could be friends.
I like to call it, we just have a little more grit.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit more oomph.
So your husband's rebelling in his own way.
So I just started like super rebelling.
Yeah.
Like didn't even come home. Like was like, oh, well, have fun with that. I'm going to go out and I'm not going to come home. I'm like, I rebelled to like, again, trying to like, hello, see me, hear me.
And none of it's working.
Yeah. And
so how long are you in this? Like you're successful. You're now like pissed and hurt and
that was like a solid
rebelling.
Year. Cause I think it was in April of 2018. No, 17.
Yeah. 17 probably.
17 that I filed and I did it.
Okay, so before, tell me about what it feels like to file for divorce, because I feel like there is that like element of like, oh God, I want to punch this person and all I want to do is talk to a divorce attorney and fill out that paperwork.
It was so scary. But I was and I didn't tell anybody, nobody. Like I didn't even tell my mom.
So you do this whole thing totally in secret. And because I actually, before we talked, I literally Googled, can filing for divorce save my marriage? And all of the articles that came up were from law firms.
Oh. Being
like, before you do this, you should try everything to save it because, like once you throw down, and people have tried to do it like as kind of an ultimatum. Was yours an ultimatum or was yours like,
no,
were you
that cost a lot of money.
And so you're like,
and I like money.
You're out.
I was out. I was done.
Mind made up.
Yep. Done.
Any chance was there even like a portion of your mind that was like, maybe we can fix this? No,
maybe he could fix it.
So are you still in love with him at this point? Or are you just
I wanted and want nothing more than to have a happy, full, and believe in that anybody can have that. Like that can have a full family, like all the things. Like I believe that even coming from never seeing that.
Right.
I full-heartedly believe like, wow. I mean, if we all love each other.
So you're not necessarily out of love with him at this point.
No,
you're
I was like, I am, and this person, am more in love with myself than I am with putting up with this because I'm going to hate myself. And that's what started happening. I started just not even liking myself anymore. Why? My husband doesn't like me clearly. Didn't seem like it. I'm not being a good mom now because I'm angry. No amount of money I'm making freaking matters because that ain't doing shit. I don't care if my nails are done, my makeup's like, who cares?
That apathy.
Because I did not have the love that I wanted and that I felt that I deserved and needed, and like it makes me want to cry. Like I wanted to be loved, and I worked so hard to be loved. And I think that, and a lot of what I've been thinking about is that I was sexually abused when I was younger. And it's really been lately that I have been like, wow, I think that was so powerful in my breakdown of a human that here I am in a marriage thinking like I'm giving life,
right?
I am protecting life. I am feeding life with my body. I am slaving to my husband because I just want so bad to have like what I know we have or had or all the things. And it just seems like it doesn't matter. So if it doesn't matter, I don't matter, nothing matters, I'm doomed.
Yep.
Is how
That's
I felt.
That's a dark, dark place.
So dark. So I was like, I can't do it. I have to be done. Like it wasn't even like of an emotional response. It was like a survival.
Yeah. Like a fight or flight kind of thing.
Yes. Like if I do not do this, something bad's going to happen. Or I'm just not ever like, I don't know, because to feel like you're unloved or unappreciated or all of those things. I mean, no one can live like that.
Nobody can live like that.
No.
And nobody can survive in that space.
And no one should.
Thrive in that. You can survive in that space, but you cannot thrive.
Yeah. And nobody should.
So you have decided, you filed.
I didn't tell him. I didn't tell anybody. Like nothing. I had told him like, I can't live like this anymore. I cannot live. Like, I mean, I tried to say it in all of the words. Like, I can't.
And none that he seemed to have heard. So he gets the papers. And what happens?
Well, he rebelled. I mean, it wasn't pretty. Not that you would imagine it would be. He was so caught off guard. He was shocked, angry. I was not in this state when he was served.
Okay.
I was with my kids. It got pretty ugly pretty fast because he went into like protective survival mode of his.
And he's freaked out. Because everything's on the line for him too.
Right. Which.
And like, was he happy? Was he like, I'm good. Like, this is fine. We can make this work. And because I feel like I hear that story too, where like, you know, one partner is miserable and the other partner is like, well, if you would just be happy, this would be great.
Yeah,
like if you could just get yourself happy, we would be totally fine.
Right. But like getting myself happy, like what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, it's different for everybody, but they don't.
Right.
Like no matter what you're asking, they don't hear it. They're like, no, just be happy and we'll all be good.
Yeah. And then looking at, you know, his past too and his upbringing. I mean, it's actually very interesting from a stand back point, like actually how much we are products of like our families and like reactions. And so anyways, it did not go over very well. But then he also is once he stops reacting, is like very level headed and like, okay, all right, we can do this. He hired a lawyer. And then I remember he wanted one conversation to talk to me before, I don't know if it was like the meeting of our lawyers or I had already gone to court and done all the things. And he was just undone, and not like in a way where you can like imagine like at my feet or my mercy, like, oh, it was a very kind of like almost like enlightening thing. Like he seemed very light. Like he wasn't, like he was looking at me in my eyes, like sitting by me, emotional, but level-headed and very like, I do not want this. I will fight for my family no matter what it takes. Like I will. And he had like, I mean, I'm not going to laugh about it kind of, but he's like, I will get this like lunchbox thing that like keeps it cold for X amount of hours so that I'm not, cause he would, he goes, he's in outside sales. And so he eats out every day. And I'm like, that money could be going towards my Botox or like my hair.
The really important things.
But like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like those were things I had complained about. Like you got to go out to eat every single day. I'm eating Triscuits and cheese and they're so stale. Like, come on. And so, he had like looked into this lunchbox. It's like from Japan and it's like this, and he's going on and on. And I'm looking at him like, God, maybe he like is, maybe
he is going to make this effort.
Yeah. Like, I think he loves me. Actually, I think he's just doesn't know what to do. Maybe we have some work to do, like bigger work than just like, I'm not happy. You take the fucking baby. Like, how about like, you know what? Maybe if you ate out twice a week and 3 days, I packed your lunch.
It's like the practical business end of
correct
marriage.
Shannon, who had like enlightened me with like, well, I mean, yeah, look at it like a business or certain things. And I was like, what's she talking about? Like, I didn't think, I'm thinking about being in love and like when we go to Paris and this villa in Italy, like my Botox. No. No. Like,
it's about the lunch boxes.
It's about the lunch boxes. And it's about the like, I remember like this big conversation like that had to be had where I was like, so what if I packed lunches every day and we get a house cleaner like once a month or something? And he's like, well, no, that's not going to work because I have to take clients to lunch. And I'm like, okay, no, I get that. But those conversations, like, we did not have those. And so when we were sitting down having this conversation and he's going on and on about all the things that he wants to do to save our family. And part of me is like, yeah, okay, like a little too late or a little whatever.
Like, I like what I'm hearing,
but like also fuck you.
Right.
Like,
yeah, where the hell have you been the last 2 years?
Uh-huh. So we were meeting with, regardless the divorce or not, we were meeting with a woman who helps families get divorced. She's also she's a marriage counselor, but also like if you're going through divorce, she helps like kind of mediate, but it's outside of the courts. So
I just want to back up for a second. So you have this meeting with him and then you're like, okay, I like what I'm hearing, but I still want to go through with this, right? Like I'm still done. I'm still out. That's how you leave that conversation with him?
Yes.
Okay. So you're still moving forward. And then in that process, you start seeing this mediator.
Yep. And we had actually kind of been seeing her as like a marriage counselor, but then it quickly changed. And so then she became this other because she's amazing. But I remember my girlfriend saying to me, I had called her it was funny because when I actually ran into her at the airport, we were going on this trip, a work trip. And I said to her, she was the first person I told, I said, oh my God, I'm getting divorced. And she looked at me and she goes, oh my God, me too. And I was like, shut up. And so then she became my person or we became each other's persons. But I remember calling her on my way to this appointment. And I was like, I don't know. Like, these are the things that he said. And I just, like, a part of me believes him, but like, man, he was for real. Like, and I know that. And she said, if roles were reversed, Lauren, and you were like at rock bottom with whatever, what would you want someone to be like, to gift to you, to give you the grace? Would you want someone to be able to give you that second chance? Because you can do that. And the divorce doesn't have to be off the table, but you can be in. You can give that person an opportunity to like get the lunchbox and do the things.
And see, I love this part of the story because I do think that what you're describing, this conversation with your friend and actually taking it to heart and giving this person that you have committed to the grace of a second chance, like that makes me emotional because I think that is the embodiment of love. Like truly saying like, you have said these words and I'm going to like be here with you to like trust you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was like a huge defining moment. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I was sitting outside the office, like going into this appointment. And I just looked at like the world. I remember like looking up at the sky, like it didn't even look the same. Because I have been in situations where I wish that I had a second chance. I wish someone would have given me that opportunity.
It's an unconditional love that not a lot of us experience, and yet all of us want.
And I think all of us like deserve.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
That was kind of the beginning of like this different outlook. And coming from a divorced family, not wanting that for my kids, and like just kind of like intellectually like making some lists of things and I mean, just to say the divorce wasn't signed, I mean, for another year. I mean, that was on the table for about a year of like intense and still intense work. I mean, we still see our person.
So you go into that appointment and you have decided that you are going to like not shut it down immediately. Tell me about.
I said that I was open. You know, I didn't take this high horse, like I'm willing to take you back or anything like that. Cause I'm not going to pull that card. You know,
right.
I'm not going to do that, but, I am going to be open to seeing what we can do to make this relationship work. If we can do it, if two parties are involved, working hard, like it's a full-time job. Like, I'll give you an example. I said this to my dad yesterday. I had lunch with my dad and I said, let me give you an example. The other night we were carving pumpkins and my husband had created this like super kind of cool, you know, like Halloween music on and the pumpkins, like he had vacuumed the floor. Like he made it like this thing. Right. And it was like super cute. And, like he tried really hard to like make it a thing.
An
event. The kids are, you know, young and don't have a large attention span. And, you know, he wants to be all creative and all this stuff. And then like I had to go to the bathroom and then my daughter followed me. And then we all ended up in like this other room and he seemed upset. And I was like, I would like 2 years ago come in the room and like, the fuck's your problem? Like, that's how I would have said it. Like, what is wrong with you? But instead I was like, hey, like, are you cool? Like, is everything okay? And he's like, well, I mean, my feelings are kind of hurt because I like tried to do this thing and you guys like all left the room. And so I'm here by myself, like carving pumpkins and kind of doesn't feel awesome. And I would have, because I had built up so much resentment over the years, been like, well, oh, sorry for you, Dad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I didn't. I was like, you know, totally get it. Called the kids in, put on a song that I knew that they would want to jam out to. And we ended up having like such an awesome night. But and what I said to my dad yesterday was that was an example of like both of us. That wasn't like some big like conversation that like, I mean, to any person, they're like, yeah, sounds like a normal conversation. Well, like that is like not normal. That was not normal. Yeah. You know, before it was like, well, what the fuck? Da, 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 da. Or maybe if you would have gotten home earlier and we could have started earlier, then like, no, just cut it out. You know what? Like,
what really matters?
What really matters? That's just an example of like where we've come. But it took a long time for us both to even get back to a place of like even trusting each other with like, for him, like, oh, are you just going to leave? Especially with the divorce thing still on the table, because I wasn't willing to.
Which is a big cloud over anyone.
Well, and I was scared that like, oh, so the second I like sign and I'm done, or it's off, then what? Then is it going to be like, oh, well, screw you, or, you know, so we had to work hard to get to that place of like trust and like wanting to be a family and like wanting to have all of that. And I think it came, you know, from also the support. I remember like, you know, my mom said to me, it's harder, and she's been divorced twice. And she said, it's harder to stay and fight and fight for your marriage than to leave. And that like one broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because I know that she probably wishes things had been different, but I think that she was right. Because I think long term, and like what our therapist always says, like, you guys have the fundamentals. You have like, you like each other's company. You guys have fun together. You do respect each other when you make the time to be together.
Well, and I think it's a unique challenge too, when you don't necessarily plan on getting pregnant as soon as you guys did, and not having that phase where you're getting to know each other at the very beginning of your married life. Because I do, you know, people will say that marriage is a piece of paper. In some ways it is, but in some ways things can change when you stand on that altar and take a vow. It can feel a little bit different, and learning that new phase in your relationship takes a hot second. And then you enter in the identity change of not only being someone that's married, but then being a parent. Like, that's a lot to deal with.
It is.
I want to know, we're all going to weddings. I just had my 15th wedding anniversary.
You go, girl.
Well, you know, it's not easy.
No.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, marriage takes a lot of work, and it goes through dark times. It goes through good times, and it ebbs and flows with every phase of your kid's life, your life. Everything changes. But I want to know what your advice is to people that are getting married, because as you've gone through this now, and for me, the biggest turning point is this story of both of you staying open to the possibility of reconciling for your kids, for yourselves, and that faith in your initial decision that you still chose the right person, right? Like, I feel like that kernel right there is what separates a lot of people. Instead of saying, I totally chose wrong, this guy is not it for me, it doesn't sound like that was the case for you.
Right. I mean, I think my advice is know your core values, be very clear on what do you care about? Like, what are your non-negotiables? What are your core values? We talk about, you know, like in jobs, or at least, you know, when I used to work, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? You can't say like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, we want to have kids, but like, okay, so with all that, what are like the three most things that like for me, it's like loyalty, honesty, dependability. Like, I need to depend on you. I need to know that you're going to be loyal, and I like trust, honesty, period. Do those align with your partners? Because if they don't, there's a problem. I mean, you got to fix that. Because if his are fun, whatever social, they are, like whatever they are, like they need to align. Be true to those. Always have your own back. Always make yourself important. And really, I think you're always going to be changing, but like, give yourself a voice and have a person. Always have a person. I say to all my friends that are like getting married or going to have babies, like, I'm just going to let you know right now, I'm going to be your person. no matter what. If you ever need to talk about anything, I will be your person. I will be your soundboard. I will be your list. I will.
Yeah. And
you have to have a person.
For some reason, I still feel like this is such a right in front of your face topic, because so many of us struggle in marriage because it's hard. And like I said earlier, it's just work. It's constant tending to this person when there are 1,000 other things in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And like having a partner that can really hear you and emphasizing to each other that that's really important, because sometimes you don't even know what you want.
100%.
Right?
A lot of the times you don't know what you want.
We've talked about like, well, I don't know. What do you want
Yeah.
to do for now? Like, I just want somebody to tell me what to do.
Uh-huh.
And it's having that person that's just going to know, like,
and give yourself a break. It's cool. Like last night I said, I don't feel like cooking. I would love da 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 da. And he was like, done. And I was like, dang. But like, you gotta
give the other person a chance to shine.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys officially recommit to each other? Was there anything where words said, or was it just like an implicit, like, all right, we good?
Yep, we good. We're going to do it. Not to say, it's funny. I was thinking about it. I was like, because girl, there are days where I'm like, oh my God, did I make that right decision? Like, I still question that. But then I think about, well, okay, what would I do? Marry somebody else with we all have issues, and everyone's going to bring in their stuff, and everyone's got different things. But like, and I guess that goes back to the advice, like, as long as you are being respected and you're being respectful and you're staying true to yourself, like, you can make it work. Unless it's like abusive and detrimental to like you and your children. Yeah. It was just like, okay, we're going to do this. And
no other conversation was necessary.
And just one foot in front of the other and saying what we need. And sometimes that doesn't happen.
Well, I think it speaks volumes for both of your character that you guys had the courage to make a turnaround, because I think when you are in that dark place of feeling totally done, it sounds to me like a very difficult thing to do, to say, okay, I'm going to put all the stuff that I have fantasized about for the last year and a half, being free, having every other weekend to myself.
Every other weekend at Wednesday nights, girl, I had the whole thing planned out. I was like, yep.
And being able to table that for a little bit and try, I think takes an incredible amount of courage for both you and your husband.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And I think that, for people out there that are in that place, like, just knowing that you're not alone and that this too can pass.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think remembering that it is a moment in time, especially when your kids are little.
Girl, no one could have told me. If someone said like, and everyone did like, it'll get better, I was like, fuck you. But
you don't know.
You don't know. But like, now I look back and I'm like, God, man, like, aw, like,
yeah, you just want to like cuddle yourself back then. They are long moments in time, but they are moments in time. But I applaud you for sharing your story, because like I said, I think filing for divorce is something that I remember one of my good friends' moms gave her a wedding gift, and the card attached said, just don't ever want to get divorced the same year. Love, Mom.
That's so good.
And honestly, like, we laugh about it now that we've been married so long, because that is the truth.
It is so the truth.
Like, as long as you stagger years when you want to leave each other, you're probably going to be pretty good.
Yes.
But like, that is just going to happen.
It is. It's totally just going to happen. And more power to you for like bringing these things to people, because there's not a lot out there. Oh God, the books that are out there.
Lots of books.
Like, yeah, just like into the microphone, because no, nothing helped. None of that helped. I wanted like real talk.
Yep.
Real talk. what's up? Tell me what's going down. So thank you for doing this for everybody.
Thank you for making yourself vulnerable, because this is a hugely vulnerable topic, and also one that a lot of us hide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hide it very well on some days. I was sitting here just thinking, this is such a loving way to tell your story. And I feel like you have honored your husband and your family in your telling of this and owning so much of your piece of it, because it does take two people. Anyway, to anyone out there, I think the advice is hang in there, find somebody to talk to, and
hit me up.
Thank you, Lauren, for coming on.
Thank you so much, Shannon. You're going to change the world, girl.
Hey, if it helps one person, I feel like we have done our job. So thank you for spending time with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
You're the bomb.
You're the bomb. Love you.
And there you have it. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on and being willing to share your experience with marriage. After our conversation, I thought a lot about what we had talked about in terms of relationship with self versus relationship your partner within a marriage. But mainly what I kept coming back to is the grace that they both gave each other in their willingness to forgive and move on with their life together. I found it to be a really beautiful story and am so happy to be able to share it. I'm also interested in what you all think about it. I'm interested in show ideas if you have them, and I'd love reviews on Apple Podcasts if you like what you're hearing. You can find me on Twitter at In Front of My Face. You can find me on Instagram at Right In Front of My Face. I'm also on Facebook. I also have a website, rightinfrontofmyface.net. Those are all ways to find me. I will do my best to respond. And in the meantime, please subscribe also. We have a lineup of great interviews to share with you. And my next guest is particularly interesting in her take on marriage, which I think you'll all want to hear in a couple weeks. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for your support.